It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally a flash of inspiration can strike you. In this case, it was an idea for a game I want to develop. It is quite possible as well that solo game devs hide themselves in their room and try madly to bring stupid ideas to life that no one else likes or that even already exist. Therefore, I start a devlog about my game right now, to share the process and get opinions from you all out there in the internet to judge and help me maneuver this ship towards the blessed port of a potential release. I'll upload a new devlog video each month, giving me enough time to work on the game while I'll post more frequently on social media in between. Well then, hope you find it interesting to follow a random guy you've never heard of on his indie game journey. You see, I'm a lousy salesman, and should you ever have questions about anything, don't hesitate and ask me in the comments. So here's episode 1 on the devlog, the backstory. Hi, I'm a part-time indie developer and illustrator. I've gained my knowledge through thousands of online tutorials, and now I want to give something back and share these skills with you. If you like these videos, subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos coming up, and if you want to support me, check out my website that contains my published games and a detailed devblog and much more, or hit me up on Twitter. I finished university in 2018 with a prototype for an open-world exploration game. I submitted the game to a student's game design competition and it was selected to be presented at a conference in Australia. So I scrapped together all the small change I had earned during my studies with smaller illustration jobs and booked the cheapest trip to Australia. Because I was sure I wouldn't make such a trip twice, I'm pretty scared of flying, I wanted to fulfill a childhood dream of mine and fly to Japan as well. After some time of traveling and partying way too intensively, I rested in the common area of a hostel in Kyoto. By chance, I found this manga named Neon Genesis Evangelion. Of course I had heard about it, but only knew roughly what it was about. I read the book and I was fascinated from the first moment on. The series is a psychological drama that explores the experiences and emotions of young mech pilots. By the way, mechs are huge robots. They try to prevent so-called angels from causing the destruction of a sci-fi future world and so on. Back home, I watched the whole anime series and thought about how cool it would be to pilot a giant mech and save the world from disaster. So I immediately started to sketch the rough plot. The player, a weakling who suddenly has to slip into the role of the protector, sounded very generic at first, but marked the beginning of this whole project. I continued to write the story, wasted days on trying to find a suitable software to create mind maps on a MacBook, and played for hours on our console together with my brother. Or should I say, we watched each other play. It's remarkable how few action games still support local multiplayer. Halo co-op campaigns, that was awesome, wasn't it? Supporting each other, to complement each other, to sit right next to your game partner and to experience the story together. In a deep-seated fit of nostalgia, it was decided the game should support local multiplayer. I was very motivated and started to put the game together, breaking one of the golden rules of game design: paper prototype first. My advice: don't start with an overly ambitious idea and a game engine. Sketch your game idea, the world, the elements, the rules, feedback, concept, etc. first in the form of an absolutely rudimentary paper prototype. If you know your game's core parts, you can always add more to them in any direction. The crucial keyword is fun. As I mentioned, I ignored this rule and created everything in Unity right from start. It took me days to integrate all the already overly detailed game elements like the player into a test scene within the engine. I threw myself into tiniest details instead of elaborating the core mechanic. I mean, I tried for 3 days to adjust the position of the mech's feet to the shape of the ground. Anyway, even though I learned a lot while making this first prototype, it was simply a too ambitious test. I found out that Unity's high-definition render pipeline, HDRP for short, was too performance demanding for my system and hardly added any value to the game. The core of the player task was and still is to fend off hordes of enemies attacking the city center. Enemy units were supposed to spawn outside and find a path to the vulnerable city center. But the enemies, using Unity's built-in nav mesh, did not really want to collaborate, and this led to strange behavior. That's why I decided to kill this prototype. I finally realized I should do a paper prototype. Nope. I started dealing with Unity's back then fairly new ECS system. If you've never heard of ECS, it stands for Entity Component System and it's part of Unity's new data-oriented technology stack, short DOTS. ECS and DOTS can deliver unbelievable high performance for games on low-end devices as well, exactly what I had hoped for. I followed several tutorials from my favorite YouTube channels, which I also present you in my top 10 videos, so go check that out for more information. In the end, I had this. It may not look like much, but the modifiable grid with ECS performance should allow what I didn't manage in the first attempt: solid and fast pathfinding for enemy units. Again, I learned a lot in the following weeks and built an interactive and editable city generator, with which a city can quickly be manually or randomly generated within the Unity editor. It contained, I think, 5 or 6 building models, and you could actually enter the city and play in it. I added a simple shooting mechanic to interact with the destructible buildings and even destructible building fractions. After that, I made a longer break to update my already released game Country Ball Potato Mayhem. You can download it for free, the link is in the description. When I came back to the mech project just about 2 months ago, I realized I took the wrong path again. The whole ECS dot stuff was way too complicated for me to invest more time into it. Because I switched to the more lightweight universal render pipeline, I also chose to go back to Unity's default C# monobehavior system and redo some pathfinding stuff again. To be more productive and to see what I did, even if it's not visually represented in the game, I started making a list with goals for each day, including cells for important links and change logs. This helped me to focus a little bit. So, after 2 attempts of creating a game prototype, the actual status quo of the project looks like this. 2 players, each can choose a mech and its color, and split screen is working. By the way, which split screen layout do you like more? I've tested both full height and full width. Let me know in the comments which one do you like more. I really appreciate your opinion on it. You can see I created some minor things like camera shake, very unpolished destruction effects and some slow motion triggers. And surprisingly, the red projectile had a few unintentional bugs, but those became kind of new projectile types, like the purple time-delayed missile and the guided green one that is pretty fun to play with. Furthermore, the enemies now follow the path, even if they are not as far developed as the ones I had in the first prototype. Alright, and to sum it all up, here's what we've got right now: some editable city maps, pathfinding, a character and destructible buildings. We have a player selection screen with local multiplayer, keyboard and gamepad support, particles and some minor small things. So for the next devlog in November, I promise you a paper prototype. And maybe you guys already know some cool mecha genre games we could discuss in the comments. I'd like to talk about more conceptual things and of course the development progress. If you want to know more about something specific, just let me know. For now, I thank you very much for watching. I hope it was entertaining. Please ask anything you'd like in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and give a thumb up if you liked what you saw. Until then, have an amazing rest of your day. Cheers everyone.